How's it going, people? Sam Slabber here, and this is Runescape Lore, where we take a look at all the history and stuff of RuneScape itself. So yeah, this includes important people, like today. So we've been covering pretty much every single Mahjarrat at this point, and the only ones left now are kind of the big names. That is, well, big ol' Sliske and Azanadra, and there's a few others. Zamorak, I suppose, technically could be considered a Mahjarrat. Well, he's a god Mahjarrat now, I guess, but yeah, big names, people, lots of information. Kind of big-ass key characters within the story of RuneScape at the moment, let's be honest. Well, today we're going to be covering Sliske, though, and I'm sure if you've done Mr. Presumed Death or Fate of the Gods, you probably get a general understanding of what Sliske is kind of like. Yeah, he's a bit mysterious, to be totally honest. But at the same time, much like other Mahjarrat, he is very, very powerful, as you'd expect. But at the same time, rather than flaunting power, he kind of goes about it in, I suppose, a mischievous way is the best way to put it. He at least comes off as if he's playing around or messing about, but simultaneously he's obviously planned it all out. He's very cunning. And he's obviously responsible for the death of Guthix, which is where his name went down in history. That is the first major kind of point of what Sliske's done. Though he has participated in a lot of things throughout the past, Sliske he's got his fingers in quite a few pies, put it that way. Although we always seem to assume that Sliske has always been loyal to Zaros, events following the death of Guthix, though, kind of caused fellow Zarosians to doubt this, and his dubious actions even then eventually led to his excommunication from the Zarosian following. He was also the first Mahjarrat to switch allegiance and actually follow Zaros in the Second Age. And it was after this that he actually became a Prefect Praetorio in Sentistan. Basically, you can think of a Prefectus Praetorio as kind of like a commander, lieutenant, general. It's like a military position within Zaros' old army of the Second Age. Well, not to take my word for it, but Azanadra, actually in-game, describes Sliske as being serpent-tongued, who likes to delve into the shadows. And Zamorgul, another Mahjarrat fellow, says that he's one of the more powerful of our number, and additionally a very slippery fellow. So, yeah, it kind of goes to reason that Sliske kind of enjoys using his tricks and manipulating people, whether it's through lies or just silver-tonguedness. And all whilst being simultaneously elusive, unless he kind of desires to actually seek you for himself, as he seems to always delve within the Shadow Realm. It's also known that he does like to go about collecting very strong warriors, and in turn adds them to his collection of his undead wights. And in case you're not aware, his undead wights is actually the Barrows brothers, for example. They're part of his undead wight army. So yeah, let's get into Sliske a little bit more then. A bit of his personality. Although Sliske is supposedly a devout Zarosian, at this point it's kind of up in the air, to be totally honest. Sliske is very much unlike any other Zarosian Mahjarrat. And this kind of goes in line with his titles. Sliske is extremely cunning and also confident. Additionally, he is an excellent liar, and he's quite able to betray allies at a whim. With that in mind, I guess Sliske is the kind of person who would often work toward his own goals while simultaneously giving benefits to Zaros himself, for example. Although he does follow Zaros, and most of his actions used to be in kind of lieu with that, like for the benefit of Zaros, he'll do X, for example, but simultaneously, it seems that he'll also only do it if there's some kind of benefit for himself. At almost every instance we know of Sliske being active within RuneScape's history, he's always gained something from wherever he appears within the history. This is pretty evident when he turned against an allied adventurer at the 18th Ritual of Rejuvenation, and even more so when he pretended to agree with Mahjarrat like Thanikos and Azanadra to wake Guthix and bargain with him in order to return Zaros to RuneScape. In reality though, somehow, somewhere along the line, he managed to obtain the Staff of Armadil, and throughout the entire time was planning to simply slay Guthix, and in the end actually managed to pull it off. So with that in mind, Sliske at the same time as being cunning and confident, and a brilliant lawyer, he is pretty devious and quite fully manipulative. But as I said, it always seems to be, or at least used to be, for the good of Zaros, and simultaneously, if not more, for himself. Sliske chooses the path that he seems to find the most fun, regardless of anyone else's opinion. And a good little example of this is, quite a long time ago, he took the effort of having Saradominus priests release Nex from the God Wars dungeon prison, rather than doing it himself, even though he's meant to be Nex's ally. And the reasoning for this is he'd enjoy how they would summon their ally's own doom, simply for that one pure reason. Sliske is seemingly devoutly Zarosian though, regarding the Zamorakians as stupid and simply misguided. Nevertheless, he is willing to agree that a Zarosian sacrifice at rituals, should that be necessary, and at the 18th ritual, Sliske agreed to have Lucian sacrifice Jalan, his once powerful but now weakened Zarosian ally. Although he did join the other Zarosians in protecting him and eventually fighting against Zamorakians, mind. As suggested by his fellow Mahjarrat's comments, Sliske has been proven to be quite thoroughly intelligent and additionally cunning, and he seems to be fully aware of how he is actually regarded by his fellow Mahjarrat. His serpent-tongued qualities, his brilliant ability to lie, seem to be quite similar with the silver-tonguedness of using the Ring of Charos. Proof of this, I guess, not only from his actions, but actually from one of the other Mahjarrat, Azanadra. Azanadra actually states that too many would assume that this is just the manner of Sliske speaking. He is actually far from being a snake, rather his words seem to carry weight in the mind, and have a simple way of bending the weak to his will. He's also stated that power is fleeting and Sliske always gets what he wants out of deals. I'd advise, should you ever meet him, not to make any deal with him. And true to that actual sentence, to be totally honest, this has been evident many times throughout history. Well, Sliske tricked the Saradominus into releasing Nex, which ended up practically annihilating them, and then he decided to claim the souls of the Barrows brothers after he'd given them armor and weapon to make them kind of invulnerable when they had their campaign against Draken. Yeah, and then at the 18th Ritual Rejuvenation, he also attempted to get a new white, and eventually did, although not the one he ideally wanted. And at the same time he also pretended to agree with the other Zarosians to not kill Guthix, for example. So yeah, fairly safe to say, he kind of does get what he wants out of deals. He's always looking out for number one, whilst keeping in mind that he is actually aligned with Zaros. Seems the way that Sliske works. Well, ability-wise of this fella, well, to be totally honest, we kind of got a basic sense, like a very simple grasp of what Sliske is capable of. We don't really know any specifics of his powers at all, but we do know of some of them, and not a massive amount is known of them, to be totally honest. So an example of this is the fact that he's known for delving into the shadows and having power over shadows. This is noted by Zamorgul, another Mahjarrat. And Sliske's power over shadows is noted to be very useful by Azanadra as well, who states that not many of our kind are able to reach into the Shadow Realm, but of those who can, Sliske's mastery is unmatched. Azanadra has also said of Sliske, an ally he may be, but I do not become master of my lord's legions without being sure of the powers wielded by those close to me. Sliske is one whose actions can be seen each and every day in the smallest of this world's details. Sliske's powers, well, they were greatly enhanced after he killed Guthix and obtained the Stone of Jazz. This all started at the end/beginning of the 6th Age, achieving what we think to be a similar level of power to that of us, the World Guardian. Whether or not it's slightly higher or lower, we're not really sure, but it's assumed he's about as powerful as us. Sliske has great control over the undead additionally, as he is a stranger described in The Fall of the Six, which is the story about the campaign against Draken. And it was in this campaign that he granted the Barrows brothers their abilities and eventually reanimated their spirits. The stranger in the tale itself is described as delving into the shadows at the camp's edge. Azanadra states that Sliske himself did not kill his Barrows toys, but it was the power he granted them that sealed their fate. This is true for the brothers died naturally before Sliske claimed them for his collection. It does seem that Sliske only controls specific warriors of whom he thinks are worthy of becoming his slaves though, unlike Zamorgul, who seems to take any zombie as a servant and then trains them later. Aside from his powers of the whites, the ability to convert new warriors to whites, and his hitherto unrivaled mastery of the Shadow Realm, although it is rumoured that Zaros has an even better grasp on it, come to think of it. Virtually nothing else seems to have been seen of Sliske's direct combat abilities. Although we did manage to slay Guthics, Elder Weapons do not seem to require any kind of sufficient experience to actually be able to use them though. And this was proven by Guthics actually stabbing Scar-Gareth in order to obtain godhood actually. And at the time Guthics, well, he was simply human. Well, I say human, he was a Naragi. He was mortal. He wasn't a god at the time, yet managed to slay a god with an Elder Weapon. So yet, no real requirements as such that we know of. Sliske again disappeared, and when he later emerged during the Battle of the God Sword, he took the effort to gather Saradominus to release Nex instead of doing it himself, simply because he's a bit of a sadist. And he's a bit evil. I say evil. You know, he's one of those lads. Nevertheless, it can be assumed that Sliske being a Mahjarrat and, well, during all these statements and the fact that he does have these powers and he's managed to pull off so much over the millennia, I'd have to say he's quite powerful, wouldn't you? And he seems to be pretty proficient, at least with magic or using his abilities. I can't really say he's proficient in combat because, well, honestly, we haven't actually seen any kind of direct confrontation from him. So who knows? I think that covers about the first part of this cover of Sliske. That is pretty much everything you need to know about the person himself. The next part will cover, well, pretty much the entire history and what Sliske got up to. And it's going to be quite a big one because, well, Sliske has been around, well, pretty much everywhere to be totally honest. Sliske does get around, I'll give it to him. So there we go, I hope you enjoyed part 1. Part 2 should be coming up maybe next week at the push. If not, it may be actually this weekend. We'll see what happens. So it'll either be next Thursday or this weekend. Hopefully you enjoyed, and with that said, I hope you all enjoyed it, and I will catch you later.